Good afternoon. My name is Ken Bailey, and I am the amateur but long-time hobby cartoonist who has posted several short and very strictly amateur videos on the web recently about the hobby of cartooning, specifically creating comic books, characters, stories, etc. And I'd like to share another short video with you about some of the work that's been done recently, and then do a quick demonstration drawing for those of you that would enjoy seeing one created from basically a blank piece of paper. So let's get right to it. As I said, I love creating comic books. This is a alternate cover, not quite finished yet, featuring my character, the Mighty Energy Girl, or Energy Woman. She is the one with the gray hair in the foreground. And this particular cover is, for those of you who are comic book experts, a kind of parody, or more accurately, what's called an homage, honoring the very first comic book cover of a certain other super strong person. Way back in 1938, two high school kids, my heroes, Jerry and Joe, created a fellow who on his very first comic book cover was lifting a car and driving it into the ground. And so here we see this story was about, it's set in the future, about one of the young ones Ellen is counseling on how to manage super strength is now her replacement in the fictional city of Fairview, and Ellen is allowed to be a full-time civilian for probably the first time since she became Energy Girl at age 18 officially, though being born with her powers. Anyway, so here she approvingly looks out at the viewer, which is called breaking the fourth wall for you theater aficionados, as her young protege takes over as the new superhero of Fairview Fantastic. So that's what a comic book cover looks like. But to practice, I like to do just single standalone pages. This is Energy Girl's current uniform. Here we see her involved in what's called a power surge. You'll have to read the books to find out what that is. Here she is with her very mortal husband, Stanley Peabody, who she married about 20 years ago. Born Ellen Ann Hubrowski, she's been Ellen Peabody ever since. Here she is. One of the things we like to do in Energy Girl is contrast the super with the mundane. So she is muttering to herself as she slams a adversary not seen in this picture. Let's see, go to school, teach school, change clothes, KO a killer robot, change clothes, pick up milk and butter, go home. The life of a superhero. Here's another picture. Ellen is lifting two semi-trucks at the same time, so she hasn't lost her edge. The name of this picture is called Stopping a Train is Hard. And even if you have super strength, a train, especially one that is moving, is very hard to stop. Just ask your local air conditioning people. Ellen's main adversary is a mortal woman who is very strong of personality, whereas Ellen is strong with physical strength. And I enjoy pitting these two ladies against each other and watching their contrasting personalities interact with each other. Here the mortal lady is very upset because this woman with superpowers is doing dishes, which the other one feels if you have super strength, make someone else do the dishes. Well, maybe she's right, but Ellen does her own dishes. When she has more than she can handle, this blonde gal, slightly older gal, is the very famous world-renowned psychologist, psychiatrist, ethicist to the superhero community, Miss Holly Pena. Or actually Mrs. She's a widow, and yes, I like puns. Now, those are all new drawings. The other fun thing to do, here's a very early Energy Girl drawing dated 2005. This was not one of my favorite ones, but rather than throw it out, what I like to do is take these old drawings and draw right over the top of them, a process I call reconditioning, to bring them up to the skill level that I have at the present. Try to rescue them rather than throwing them away. So this is the original 2005 drawing. And here we have a same copy of the same drawing, but after reconditioning. You can see we just add black ink right over the other, try to give their faces a little more character, and I put the lines in to kind of balance all that boring orange space. Here's another 2005 drawing after reconditioning. Ellen is racing a cracked passenger train. Fixed up the face a little bit here too, if the camera will focus on it. Yet another reconditioned drawing. This one is simply called Bulletproof. And yet another reconditioned drawing. This is called self-service parking. If there's no place to park at the local Burger Mania drive-in, it helps to have a superwoman in the car. Okay, well, enough said about old stuff. I dropped the pen on the floor, but I'll quickly demonstrate where these drawings come from. I have this big paper. It's a special high slick cartooning paper that is very good for use with pens, and I basically just use 3 different types of instruments. I use a typical number 2 pencil, and then I use this, I can't say the name because of copyright and no advertising, but I use this very, very fine point pen next, and lastly a thicker fine point pen. And trusty ruler. So as you can see, very, very high tech. We're using the same things almost that the cavemen used when they drew cartoons. Not quite, but almost. Okay, let's see. I'm my own photographer today, so we're going to have to hold the camera with one hand and the pen with the other. But first we just basically, just the very basic shapes with the pencil so we know what's going to go where. Okay, that's good. I don't know if you can even see the pencil lines, but with the shadows, no, there's Ellen's face and her arm and her body, and we are ready to go. We don't waste too much time with the pencil. I like to get to the ink right away. Okay, when you're drawing the face, at least for me, the entire face is anchored by the person's nose, so we want to put that in first. Kind of right in the middle, I put a horizontal pencil line across to get it right about in the middle of the oval that is her face. Then we bring the bridge of the nose up, and everything else in this drawing will anchor off that. We'll get the eyes in next. We usually leave just a little bit of white in the center of the eye, where the pupil is, and then something I learned from our manga friends in Japan is leaving a bubble or 2 even on the iris part when you color the rest in. This indicates that the eye is shiny like that. I want to add a few eyelashes because this helps establish that Ellen is a female. Eyebrows are the main tool used to give a face expression. So cartoonists love the fact that people come with eyebrows. And coming down the other way, the muscles that pull back when you smile are great for framing the rest of the face. We'll put the chin down here in the bottom. Ellen is not like these modern anti-heroes. She's a very cheerful person when she can be, so we'll give her a big smile. She's also kind of unusual in that she is in her 50s. The very advanced DNA structure that gave her her super strength has largely given her a very youthful body, it's true, but she is slowly aging, and she's really one of the veterans of the superhero business. I always like to have a few hairs hanging down over her face. When you're out throwing trucks around, and she cannot fly, but being outside in the elements a lot fighting the bad guys, the hairs don't, or hair, doesn't perfectly stay in place like back in the 70s. 3 certain females who were crime fighters, even though they weren't super, could have all kinds of adventures and not one hair was wrong. Well, that's not real life, folks. Being super strong probably isn't real life either, but don't confuse me with the facts. Ellen's hair usually is a little bit out of place after she's been outside doing super stuff. So she likes to wear earrings. She's a very muscular gal, and as her muscles have increased, she took to wearing earrings even on duty, had the government design her some special ones that don't fall off even in the midst of battle, so that we know right away that she is still a feminine lady in spite of the fact that she can probably outflex a certain Austrian we won't mention because of copyright and not wanting to offend him. One of the neat thing about muscular people is since their body is largely like a bunch of circles or balloons, it is easy to align the different parts. We wimpy people in the real world are much harder to draw. Trust me. So, Ellen will be down here. What's she doing yet? I don't know. We haven't decided that yet, but obviously it's something that involves lifting or pushing something. We have to have her doing something super, after all. One of the rules of cartooning is when you're drawing a female, don't bulk her up too much, and that's a rule unfortunately I have to break. Ellen is quite bulky. So, once again, to kind of counterbalance the fact that she's got large muscles and more than a little weight, we accentuate her femaleness with their body shape as well to kind of counteract that. And again, we've said she's a cheerful person, so what we're going to have her doing is giving us a friendly wave as she's lifting or pushing whatever she's dealing with. Now that I think of it, maybe having her flash the OK sign would have been good too, but too late for that now. Oh well, just a practice drawing here. The biceps and the triceps muscle we both want to accentuate. And her rib cage comes down like this. And, well, let's see what we have her pushing. She has just stopped a car that either was about to go through a red light, or because my other hobby is railroading, now we have an idea for a story. This poor motorist, whoever they are, were looking through the windshield, so we'll put the top of it up here. Didn't see the flashing railroad crossing lights and nearly drove into the path of a train when at the last minute, who should appear in his windshield but our lovely, friendly female who is saying, you know, you really should stop on the flashing lights, which we will put back here. And the train rolling by in the background. Okay, now we've got the basic outline and shapes with our light pen. Now let's do the heavy color. Gosh, we're already up to 11 minutes. I said this would be short. I lied. Okay. So we'll it's largely just going over what's already there, but making it much bolder, not only making the lines darker, but we will also add a little bit of shadow too. As you can see, these darker lines make it much easier to see from a distance. Now, you generally want to work from the most important to the least important parts of your drawing, doing the most important parts first. So, obviously, our lovely Mighty Energy Girl is the most important part of this drawing, so we do her first. I will leave some of the details out for time's sake. They can be filled in later. I trust this is a typical middle-age kind of hairstyle. It's meant to look a little older and just a little bit uncool, but this is a character I have great fondness for, so I'm really, even in her little quirks, they are given her with a great deal of fondness and respect, and not to ridicule middle-agers or pretty much anybody else. I try not to be in the ridicule business. And now we'll add her bust. She does take a little heat for that from the public community. Some people resent her rather tight costume, but she has to explain that being a superhero, she needs freedom of movement. She's something of an acrobat, and so she's not meant to be an exhibitionist, but it's just part of the tools of the trade. She must have a uniform that fits well, and and yet allows a lot of movement, and that's why there's not a lot of extra fabric. Okay. Some of you are saying, yeah, sure, that sure sounds like an excuse. Well, maybe so, maybe no. I've never been a superhero, so I really can't say, haha. You know, as just the artist creator and not the fictional person, you can hide behind stuff like that all you want and say, well, I'm not the superhero, she is, even though she doesn't exist. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be late. The dog ate my homework. For those of you who care, there is a cute song about excuses that a certain Southern gospel group recorded that deals with that subject. We'll leave the rest of that up to them, and we'll just stick to the cartooning. Okay, there'll be just a little bit of shadow back here. I love giving Ellen bulging biceps. That's kind of the universal strength symbol. And just like it's very hard to put a certain male superhero into tights and still make him look tough, but they are able to do it with a little skill, it's a little hard to give a woman bulging biceps and still make her look feminine, but hopefully we can do it. It's also hard to draw hands. One of the things Ellen does not have in the female department is gentle female-looking hands, because this artist has not figured out how to do that yet. So she has very large hands. Oh well. You want to be the one to tell her she looks fat with those hands? Be my guest. I'm not gonna. Okay. Now we have, back up a little bit, let you see it. Here we have our figure. Now we just need the car, which is the hood of the car, which is the next most important thing. A little bent up because she stopped it rather suddenly, and the metal doesn't appreciate that. Also showing that she can bend a hood just by putting her hand on it is another strength denoter, even though in reality our superhero, because somebody's going to have to pay for this car and the damage to it, probably would not want to bend it. We want to show it's bent.